Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all today. My name is Jennifer Bernstein, and I am the CEO and president here at the Garden. I'd like to acknowledge to start that the New York Botanical Garden is located on the ancestral homeland of the Lenape, Delaware people. We honor them and acknowledge their displacement, dispossession, and continued presence. Today's lecture is part of the 24th annual Winter Lecture Series, this year titled From Skyline to Shoreline, Imaginative Waterfronts of New York City, which celebrates three distinguished individuals who have made such a big impact on New York City's green spaces. Special thanks to Susan Cohen, coordinator of our Landscape Design Certificate, who curated this year's series. We have two really great upcoming events that I want to highlight for you. On March 21st, we will go behind the scenes of the Orchid Show, Florals in Fashion, which just opened, with designers Hilary Taymor, Olivia Chang, and Kristen Olpa for an online conversation moderated by Vanessa Friedman, fashion director and chief fashion critic of the New York Times Style section. On March 28th, we will have our Andrew Carnegie Distinguished Lecture. We will welcome Signe Nielsen to reflect on the development of Little Island at the intersection of nature, art, and community on the Hudson River waterfront. Today, I am thrilled and honored to welcome our very special guest, Wari Price. Wari is a visionary leader who is a champion for the protection and revitalization of green spaces to ensure that they will be enjoyed for generations to come. She has been instrumental in creating new waterfront access along the East River, helped renovate 6 parks on the Upper East Side, was the founding director of the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center in Austin, Texas, and has served on several boards, including Boston University Medical Center and Scenic Hudson. In 1994, Wari founded the Battery Conservancy to protect and reimagine the 25 acres of public parkland on the southern tip of Manhattan. Today, this space includes stunning perennial gardens, urban farmland, 7 acres of woodland, the Sea Glass Carousel, a garden bikeway, and a playground built with flood recovery in mind. The Battery was the first New York City public park to introduce a horticultural landscape without fences or an admission fee, and is now visited by more than 7 million people each year. Time permitting, Wari will end the talk with a short Q&A session, so please save your questions for the end. And also, it's a friendly reminder right now to please silence your cell phones. So now, please join me in giving a very warm garden welcome to Wari Price.
Good morning. Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's been quite a journey, and where we are is a critical time in the Battery's history, so it couldn't be more important to document and be able to be here today and know that you are videotaping this for your own archives, but I have to thank you because we will also be able to have this archivally in our own history. It has been 30 years, as Jennifer said. It takes things, especially in the public domain, do not happen overnight. It is a testament to New Yorkers, private citizens, to step up and say this is an important landscape. It's our birthplace, and it looked in dire need. The idea of what is a garden? Is it a fantasy, show, story? I think that a garden to be successful definitely has to be filled with fantasy. And that fantasy presents a show which then unveils a story. Today, we're going to look at this garden, how it began, the why, what I say, the how, and then, of course, you can't ever estimate the importance of wow. It's been on the Borough President's Task Force for Waterfronts when I was head of a community board on the Upper East Side. The ability, I knew that New York was primed, that its new public open space would be its waterfronts. And why not begin where it all began, as We know the Lenapes fish from our banks. They may have been settled. This is where they lived, but they would make their journey down to the Battery for some of the best fishing. The idea that this island is filled with waterfronts ready, and boy, in '94, there was nothing. So the Battery gave us its authentic background, gave it a real essence of why it should begin here. I was most interested in the whole environmental movement. I'd been from the beginning of my own garden to my work at Scenic Hudson's on the board there, that this was so important to bring much more to the public awareness. And to be very plain and simple, I love design. I don't buy off the shelf. And I wasn't going to do that if I started this conservancy. So design excellence was something that we were going to be wedded to, and we believed that that's where our children and our adults learn aesthetic literacy. We give it to them free in our public spaces. The other was that we knew after the build-out that it was about program, and that innovation in education was another one of our goals. The other is we've always been open, we will always be. There are no gates, there are no fences. This park is open, and those gardens and what we've done here are open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And its proximity now, as we go for that delicate balance between land and water, it's becoming much more poignant. The reason of the whys. One is I wanted to set those principles, those important principles, but the other was volume. We tested out, Jennifer said 7 million. Those really are people we know come, make it a destination on a visit. But how many people are we influencing that look at when the alliums are just starting to bloom? There are 44 million people crisscross this landscape because of its transportation. So that idea of influencing and uplifting people's lives was being squandered by the way it looked, beside the sense that our visitors from around the world were looking at a park that was not at all what we wanted. You only have one chance for a first impression, and this is what we were showing the world. Our birthplace, this is what we are as New Yorkers. Too many Belgian blocks, that sense of unappreciated asset. And we believed we could inspire government to be an innovating force. They got all the best property. They own our show places. But they needed this private little civic engine to push them along. But innovation was so important, and government had to take charge. We were only interested in establishing new standards, a whole new standards of excellence in everything we do. But because we're the Battery, the birthplace park, we had to be true to our origin. Remember the first guiding principle, authenticity? That's the most important thing I tell everyone, whether it's your own garden in your home or your windowsill or your back small garden or whatever you have. Look at it to what it means to you and what kind of history that you bring with it. So the park we started with had all this asphalt. Everything gray was asphalt. The master plan, which had been done before I took on the thrust of starting a nonprofit, had this wonderful sense of increased green space. The pathways were more easily accessible. You knew where you were going, new access to the waterfront, and a lot more green. But there were no gardens. No gardens, because the Parks Department didn't do gardens. They couldn't afford gardens. When we began, there were 1 or 2 people, I think, with the title horticulturalist in the New York City Parks Department, and now they have hundreds. Because we figured out the economics that in many ways, and certainly with the use of carbon footprint, gardens are much better. They're more efficient and became much more economical. Again, our waterfront as a parking lot, and today really able to really greet the public. Our banisters, the railing system looking out to 11,000 acres of water was the beginning of a public art piece, The River That Flows Two Ways. Garbage. Gardens. You know, they said to me, Wari, there's no way they're going to let you take for code. See that 2-foot level change, that metal fence? There's no way they're going to let you take that down for safety. I said, what about 30 inches of garden? You know, you can't be deterred by what the regulation. I mean, we always want people to be safe. But the idea that we went and found the most beautiful stone, which is Stony Creek granite, and it's the pedestal of the statue. I mean, talk about your authenticity. You're communing with it, whether you're out there or not, just sitting on the bench. And then again, these gardens, the sense that nature is so much a part of changing asphalt to this wonderful new ability. Now, how did I decide about gardens? Well, after 9/11, and we were back in that park because we had a capital project on September 17th. We were so aware of the trauma because we were there that day as a survival link. People got to the Battery and got home safe, but everyone's impact was on the people we lost and their families, and rightly so. But no one was reaching out to the survivors and the trauma they were faced with. So I knew unless we came and found a phenomenal horticultural plan for the park, that balance of trauma that day to uplifting and wanting to come back and balance that was going to be horticulture. I had been, one of our donors had said, do you know the work of Pete Aldoff? And I did not. I got all his books, and then I just sent him back then a fax, because we had a great relationship with the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And so they said, oh, we have his fax number. So I wrote off this Pete Aldoff and said, I'm coming to the Netherlands for the Floriade. Can I meet with you? So he said, absolutely. So this is kind of that meeting in the Netherlands in 2002. So it was critical because he understood scale. Remember how I said it's 11,000 acres of water? You have to be really understanding nature's relationship to water to understand putting gardens next to that scale of nature. And Pete's plan, his hundreds and 200s of the same species in these grand flows, was perfect for it. And he really had never been to New York. So we invited him to come to New York that fall, meet with the Parks Department and be sure everybody was welcoming, and the saga began. Pete's life in the US began. So it was a special moment. He is our horticulture master planner, which no other city park had ever had a horticultural master plan. They had programmatic planning, but not an overlay of horticulture. So that was another innovation. And so this is the young Pete. And if you've seen him lately, we have still a great relationship. He's an amazing individual that's done so much for the native plant field. And we named them the Gardens of Remembrance. Also good design. We don't want vertical signage, so we have these insets of the bronze along this granite, Stony Creek granite pathway. And this were these medallions that we created because we wanted people to know that the survivors and all who come seeking renewed optimism and hope, that they are the people we wanted to honor also with the gardens. So the next project that he started down along the channel, those Gardens of Remembrance, and the next project was almost 3 acres of the Bosque, which is a grove of trees that Moses planted after they filled in 12 years of construction for the Battery Brooklyn Tunnel. People say, Wari, what are your biggest constraints? They think I'm going to say fundraising. I said, no, it's my transportation network under the park. Every day we start something, there's someone else coming in. You've got the Battery Brooklyn Tunnel, which is, the deepest tunnel at the time when it was built below grade, 30 feet. You've got the underpass uniting the west side with the east side of Manhattan. You've got the 4 and the 5, the RW, and the number 1. all underneath this magical place that I'm trying to make a giant garden. So from here, we said, oh goodness, why not? Structures of our kiosks, we redesigned them to be more like a garden shed because we knew people wanted to come and linger, and it's nice to have a cup of coffee or a sandwich. We are able to, the parks let us run the concession, so we have farm-to-table vendors that will work with us. But that idea that you are there, sitting, enjoying, and greeting the water, and at night it glows like a magic lantern. So that was architecture coming in to the horticultural environment, which is also extremely important. Remember, design excellence, design excellence. And what about furnishings? This is the standard. We still see some of these throughout New York City. And we said, what about doing custom bins that also embrace and kind of let those gardens integrate into seating? So these were done by the WXY when they also did the kiosk. Laura Starr and Steve Whitehouse are our landscape architects. They've done work much in the gardens. The Firetail Persicarius is my winner. Boy, it just never fails. It really is so beautiful. And again, monuments, more Belgian block. We knew we wanted to greet families, linger. We knew fountains, we wanted something at surface level, so in the winter it wasn't just an empty sculpture. And at daytime, at night, it's magnificent, again, presenting the beauty of that harbor. And then I mentioned to Jennifer about the importance of NRDC in our lives. We had all these things going on, and then all of a sudden the Metropolitan Transit Authority came and said, Wari, we're going to help you finish the park. I said, oh, well, I'm all for help. And they said, oh, and by the way, when we're digging the #1 tunnel, we're going to put the destination in the park. I said, I think this is called alienation of public parkland. And I just happen our partners over at NRDC are working with us, and in my nice, non-confrontational way, I said, and we'll see you at the Supreme Court. And it still took me a year and a half to convince them. It wasn't a winner right off. But you stay with it. You say, how can you take this swath of a park when you've got just north a transportation hub wanting and needing? Where else can you connect with the Staten Island Ferry, the select bus service, Bikeway? It's a transportation hub for the 21st century. You just got to move it out of. We did have the tunnel. We did not fight them on the need for a new #1. We fought them on where they were going to put their stations. So we won, as you can see. So instead of taking that whole swath of the park, we then worked extremely hard with everyone to make this the transportation hub. And with that, it's called Peter Minuit Plaza, the first Director General of New Amsterdam. And it has become an incredible way where we maintain the gardens. We competed on the Hudson 400. The King of the Netherlands had a gift. They wanted a lasting tribute to the 400, and we competed for that and won that $2.5 million grant. And with UN Studios, a Dutch architect, we have this wonderful pavilion, which is for food and for information, that sits within this new, incredibly well-planned transportation hub. So this big number down here, $776 million, was instrumental because of a nonprofit that was building and really revitalizing the Battery. As a friend said, Wari, what are you doing? We thought you were going down there to plant a couple of tulips. You're taking on the whole MTA now? And I said, well, you do what you have to do to be sure that your park is in the right hands. And when you see all of the areas we've now utilized for space that would have been gone if we hadn't fought this fight. And we fought it alone. The Battery Conservancy was out there alone. The city did not go against us, but they said, look, we have enough issues with the governor and the state. We can't take this on too. And I said, well, we have to. We can't lose the park. And thank God I had Eleanor Roosevelt over here on my side, because she had fought Moses for the other bridge between Manhattan and Brooklyn. So we won. I feel, if you ask me what is the most significant thing the Conservancy has done, beside the beautiful gardens, it's winning this fight and ensuring the Battery was safe again for. And of course, it's surrounded by beautiful gardens. Then, this is the area when we had had their excavation for 7 years. And 8 women from the Environmental Club of Millennial High School, a charter school just 2 blocks from us, came and said, Mrs. Price, can we have a vegetable garden? And I kind of looked at, and I have to acknowledge the team that's right here, Steve Lagerstrom and Sean Kiley, because it's really our gardeners and it's our ops that I really am dedicating my talk to today, because we wouldn't have any of this without the team that we have created and their dedication. So thank you guys. And they really said, I said, we have no budget for this vegetable garden. They said, Wari, we want new karma. That's been an open ditch for 7 years. And then one of our board members had urban farming. So I said, okay, forget this vegetable garden. We're gonna have an urban farm. So that 8 students that came to us, we turned that vegetable garden into this wonderful urban farm that is over that excavation plot. And we all felt so much better not knowing we were going to have this incredible group. Those 8 students, it's 8,800 young students that come now annually to farm, to visit, to understand where their food comes from. So at that point, we became what we've coined the learning landscape. And it's been and it's expanded. We've gone from the vegetable garden to forest farming, which is you plant vegetables in the shade. So it's our edible ferns and mushrooms and then all of our fruits, elderberries, pawpaw trees that produce the most incredible fruit. And that entire sense of expansion, because the children need to see growth in both of these ecology zones. And it's been just a wonderful way. This was our member, where I say design excellence. This is the fence that you used to enter the farm. And now we have this beautiful bronze, kind of very lyrical, beautiful fence by Kathy Ruttenberg, who entitles it Passage to Potential. So one is coming, and then the hyacinth beans give it such a glam during the summer months. But to us, again, it's an uplifting moment as all the students come to farm. And it's good public art. It's functional. It's also telling the story of children with nature, and not just the plants. It's all the pollinators that they're exposed to and involved with. This is the forest farm, which is centerpiece is a labyrinth. On the 1st year anniversary of 9/11, a group called Camino de Paz came to us wanting to build a labyrinth in the park. It's a walk of contemplation. It's not a maze. You can't get lost. And it was a moment where our team that had really been through that really difficult year, but the Camino de Paz said, well, look, we can't work with you unless you find the right space. I said, okay. So we felt that this juncture, which is right at the point where West Street comes to the park and balances between that and the view out to the harbor and the statue, was poignant, since all that whole year were the truckloads of debris that came down West Street, circled around the park. So this labyrinth was created at that point, and then the gardens around it were really instituted by our team and evolved into the forest farming area. So it's used for education as well as many people will come. The Quakers come during the summer regularly, others come to walk the labyrinth, and it's been a real sanctuary within the park in a wonderful way. These are Pete's wonderful gardens that come through seasonally. These are our fall asters. You can see about its proximity to the castle walls of Castle Clinton. So it's another way of understanding that sense of beauty, but that need to kind of scale back in your day and be in a garden. Or again, the other thing, we know we are doing our jobs when people don't know where they are. If a garden doesn't disorient you, it's not doing its job, certainly in an urban environment. And so the gates, this is the new gate that we just put in last year called the Pollinator Gate to the Labyrinth. Again, Kathy Ruttenberg's work. So that was the major, we've got the bosque, we've got the gardens. Now it's time to do the bikeway. The master plan had no bikeway. We weren't biking back we were biking, but we weren't institutionalizing biking as a transportation mode back in the 80s when the master plan was done. So no bikeway. So I say this often, especially to students, that master plans are very, very important, but they don't give you all that you're going to need over the time. You still have to be open to spontaneous new ideas, to other things that have come that really do belong in your landscape. So, but the bones, that skeletal bones, we always go back to the master plan before we go into any new capital project. But the bikeway was going to be, and I said the only way for this, first of all, I thought it was kind of an incursion into this beautiful sanctuary, but I convinced, nope. Then I said, okay, if I have to do the bikeway, it's going to be a garden bikeway. It has to be embanked with beautiful gardens. So Pete to the rescue, and it really is and was. It is now in transformation because of resilience, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But when it was built, we separated. People said to me, Wari, they're going to be so fast. You've got all these people coming into the park. How are you going? I said, well, we divide it up, which tends to slow down. We also, there's the curvature to it. And then I said, and by the way, we're going to stun them with the beauty. Why would they rush through the Battery? We'll slow them down because you can't rush through this and not take in what's blooming this week. So they still are fast moving, the bikers, commuting especially. But we did figure out that not having it straight, like so much of the Hudson River Park, is straight strips, and it's much more of a thoroughfare. But the Battery will always have its bikeway. And remember, it's critical. It connects the east side to the west side of New York. So it really is an important part. Right next to it is something the master plan had, which was the Grand Oval. And of all the different parts of the park, the one that really says this place is important is the scale of 90,000 square feet of this oval grand space. And it was always considered a lawn and a place of public assembly. And from this to this, it really is a gathering place. When Greta Thunberg came, and we had the youth march of 60,000 young people from City Hall to the Battery to talk about climate, this is where we did it. This was exactly. The team, Steve said, Wari, do you want to take down the fences over in the woodlands? When we saw the numbers increasing, I said, yes, take all the fences down. I don't want any family or any group of young people not to be able to find a place to be in the park after their march. So we did that, and the park really, I had everyone on the phone. Are they ruining the park? Are they done it? What's happening? Are you upset? And I went, I am having the best day of my life because it's happening. So much of planning is we think this is the right, we felt like this is right, but until you see it used for its purpose, do you kind of go, we did it, it's good. It's also this great free open space for gathering, public assembly. It's meant for that. Our team went off to Rutgers to the Tall Turf seminar. Did I say it right? Turf seminar to get the best mix that is the strongest, the toughest. We grew it from seed, gets tougher than plugs, or, we couldn't afford, we would have never done it by sod. So that sense of understanding, and then because of Edwina and Perfect Earth, of course, we welcome and love having a lot of clover out there in that wonderful oval. So the mixture of plants that are producing nitrogen and still beautiful, and we like to show all our commuters, you could have this too with no toxins and no chemical fertilizers. That's the standard of what this grand oval is to communicate. And again, the idea that the great urbanist Holly White really taught us a lot about how people come and go and how we want to use it. So we decided that to open it, we would create the Battery Fair. And these structures, these little booths, would circle around the entire fair, and it was for all small batch entrepreneurs in the food industry. This was the sketch we started with. This was the architectural tensile structures. We couldn't find anything off the shelf. Unfortunately, they weren't attractive enough. And so we built this, and the people came. We are able to take them down and store them and put them up. We own them all. They are our way of determining, they're on the hard surface. They're not in the oval itself. We get all of these tourists in this traffic. So to really help define things we care about, whether it's transportation innovation, whether it's the Maker Faire or the knitters or whatever, as far as people's exhibition of their own different traits and crafts, this gives us that coming together at the Oval and celebrate and grains. And then again, back to Holly, he says if you don't have movable chairs in a public space, the public doesn't feel it's theirs. They don't want to they can't move a bolted bench. So you've got to have chairs that can move with wherever they want to sit, and they feel that it's their space. So we decided we would do, for industrial design, the Americas. That's North America and South America. We engaged over 1,500 designers. The total registration was 852. The Guggenheim does a lot of competition, so I went to them and said, give me some guidance on what we can think about, how to formulate this. It's all in the jury, so we had a phenomenally incredible jury. The ability to get out with the digital age, we didn't spend anything on PR. Everything was so easy to communicate throughout this incredible North to South America. The Guggenheim said they got between 300 and 400, and they reminded me that I wasn't the Guggenheim. I said, I'm very aware I'm not the Guggenheim. But we do have an incredible sought-after destination at the tip where everyone knows because they go to the statue. So it's not like it's an unknown destination. So luckily and exciting for us, we got over 852, and then 679 full applications, and those were major, the design and the background and everything they would have. So we felt like we had done something for industrial designers, and it was students in schools of architecture that would compete, and that we had a chair that was the Battery Blue chair, which had a sense of looking at our horticulture, and it was won by Andrew Jones from Canada. And today they are all over the park. There are 300 of them, and they're scattered. And because we don't have donate a bench per se in in the gardens, we have a plaque on the back of these that if families want to donate something in the park, it's the chairs. Back to our history and our authenticity, the last life where the park was a true destination, not a pass-through. Remember, that's the scale of those 44 million. Everyone's passing through the park. But as far as destination, it was the home of the New York Aquarium. 1896 it opened in the Battery at the castle. The last life of activity in the castle was at the New York Aquarium. So a lighting designer, when we were working on the Bosque, and this again I say a lot, you never know when a brilliant idea is going to come into your life. And it was in the planning of the Bosque where the lighting designer said we needed a glow, we needed some light fill element to draw people from the street into the park to enjoy it for evenings and the beautiful sunsets. And the landscape architect said, what about a merry-go-round? And then Claire Weiss of WXY said, Worry, it's got to be an aquarium carousel. And I went, oh, well, we're the home of the New York Aquarium's first place. So with that, we went from the castle's history, its interior. It was 2 million people came to the aquarium. Unbelievable at that time, at the turn of the century, how sought after this was for entertainment and interest. And so this is what we came up with, the Sea Glass Carousel. And it has truly been an incredible new element of beauty and excitement, and it hits another conservation guideline, which is that of the marine life. Since so much of the park is in balance with those 11,000 acres of water, we needed something. One, it produced the beautiful glow that we were looking for. And fish naturally are bioluminescent. So when we went to George Seapan's Opera Company to do the show, it became so important that the glow of these figures have their own luminosity of excitement and beauty. But it all relates to the outdoors. This is Pete Stocky, that is Stocky Humilo, which was developed in his own nursery gardens. And the gardens surrounding the sea glass, taking that as a color palette, are just amazingly beautiful as they circle around this incredible, beautiful place. Here's the Agastache. And the sense that these change. Seasonally, they'll always be different, but they embrace this wonderful core destination of, in a sense, entertainment, but also the wonderment of the undersea world. And there again, the gardens balance on surface to another idea and experience in the carousel. The carousel is located just across from this. Remember, all this would have been gone if the MTA station was there. I just want to always kind of go back to how important that battle was. But here is the first playground in New York that's built to flood and recover. We know the Battery is full of landfill and that the waters are coming, and we have to be ready. Our salt-tolerant plant material is being readied. In this garden alone, this is the first major playground in New York that has gardens, 40,000 square feet of gardens. So it's got 5 ecology zones. We bring children up really high. You see the mist down here below. And it really is there, again, the dedication to design, contemporary design, and then programming. But it's this. This is the first thing you see when you walk in the playground. I mean, it's got from here the slides to here the slides. You know, the before and afters tell the story. Look at the wonderful sense of the nature that surrounds. When people said, Worry, how was the pandemic and what did you do during the time? I said I was up in the Adirondacks choosing all the stone for the playscape. So it was a time where when children that don't get to summer in the Adirondacks or be outdoors in true nature, they can come here to this playground. And the mist, the gardens, the climbing structures are now much more romantically integrated into these incredible, beautiful grasses. So the playhouses for imaginary play, the climbing, the sense of the moment of watchfulness. You know, I mean, I think that this is a whole new level for playgrounds in the city. Again, a maintenance yard, which is now this enchanted, lost in a garden, climbing. Being able to get up high is very important as we deal with our sea level rise projects. I want children to have that elevated, and these are all ramped, these are all accessible, wheelchair, stroller. It's a wonderful way for children to be able to see out. They get up high and see the entire park from these vantage points. Again, children will tell me those are clouds, others will tell me it's the sea. But that idea that the punctuation of fences relate to beauty. The show, we wanted a sense of an improv theater that was open. I mean, we're the cultural theatrical capital of the world, and we don't have any theaters and any playgrounds. So we built this beautiful, it's a 14 by 14 foot structure we call Showbox. And there's this climbing structure in front of it, which acts as an amphitheater. The Parsons Dance Company, Dave Parsons came to me and said, we want to create a ballet in the 5 ecology zones, and we're going to work with Ballet Tech, the only public school for dance in New York. And they did. And so the students come, the 4th and 5th graders every year, to the dance that David Parsons created. We built 100 puppets, these beautiful bird puppets, as one of the parts of the ballet is to walk the entire park with the puppets. And it is a place that this is a Lang School doing the Tempest as their end of year play for their families. And that children, I want them someday to know they were going for the stage because they were on the stage at Showbox as a child. And it's also puppetry. The Jim Henson Foundation helped us create the building and are helpful to get emerging puppeteers to perform there. And all summer, we created Sundays at Showbox so that continuity, you can always be sure there'll be something happening for your family on a Sunday morning and afternoon. Come to from April through to October, you can plan on coming to Showbox. And it's there for all improv, too. Now I've mentioned it a couple of times about the real balance and delicacy of land and water. This is this waterfront that is going through tremendous change because of sea level rise. This is January 13th this year. It is unbelievable how fast a concept that we've just kind of embraced in the last 5 years to understand how the city has got to respond. And Sandy, we lost so much in Sandy. Our gardens were the easiest to recover, but we lost the entire fountain. Sea Glass was built at the 100-year sea level rise, so the basement was totally free of water. It was safe. But this is a couple of weekends ago, when that storm that weekend. So we know we need to raise the promenade. Today, as you saw those steps on the Garden of Remembrance, you walked up to the Bosque. Now you will be walking down into the Bosque. So I'm already getting my head about being a sunken garden, that we will embrace people, but at a different level. This is being raised 5 feet. Now the new studies by the Army Corps is that it's going much faster. So it may not be good for 100 years, but it'll be good for 50. But the idea that this is that seawall, we want to keep embarkation and disembarking, we want the waterfront to be active, and we need to safeguard our city. So along the water's edge, this is the project that we are in construction at this very moment. And this is another shot of Pier A, the water's coming up and breaching the promenade. You can see there's our wonderful river that flows 2 ways, which will be brought into the new plan. So here, in all transparencies, what I've shown you are real pictures. But if you came and said, Rory, I want you to take a walk with me, I will want to let you know we are filled with the construction of two major initiatives. The one along the edge, everything in brown is in construction. All along Battery Place, a 10-foot berm is being built where that bikeway was. The staging area we've given over, I said to the teams, look, we're going to give you the whole oval, but don't you dare touch anything else. You can't touch the Bosch, you can't touch the woodlands, you can't touch the urban farm, the C-Class, the playground. Keep everything in one place. So we got two major, the Battery Place is, I think, $200 million. This one along the wharf is another $200 million that the city and the state is putting in to fortify the Battery. So it is a challenging time for all of our teams to see but we know we are the leader. Remember how I said the Battery had to set the standard? So physically and experientially, we are going to be talking about sea level rise, educating our children and our visitors to the importance of what we do here. The Battery has always had impact and has even more so today. We say the Battery, the first line of defense. It's our theme for our gala this year in June, because it truly is. It's always been the first line of defense, and now it's the encroachment of water. Our sense of our grasses, salt tolerant, durable, against the history of the castle. Remember, defense. We had Fort Amsterdam there. There was the first slide. This is what was built during Jeffersonian refortification for the War of 1812. The sense of our monuments, the World War II memorial that we host, the Coast Guard. Again, we fill them with gardens. But we've herited 24 monuments in the park, so we bring the importance of them and fill them with the beautiful gardens. And of course, the grasses. The sense of this moment between land and water. This is your where am I moment. It's if we don't start saying our gardens, that is their job. I love this wonderful quote, the beauty is on duty. I just thought, that's such a good phrase for the Battery. It's in its sense of, we're on duty. But for beauty as well as protecting, these are just, look at this enchantment. This is the fantasy that we talked about, that it is all about plants. It's the reason I was so happy to come here today to thank you for all the gardeners you have educated that have then come and made all this a reality. Our numbers are 240,000. We say we're the largest because we're free and open to the public. We know you have more here, but you have a gate to come in and you're not open as we are. So we're going to grab that we're the largest that are open every day of the year. And it truly, for me personally, as I go through these, I'm still in awe at what we were able to do in a public space, working with the city, the state, and the federal government. Most people ran. Betsy Rogers, who started Central Park, when she asked me, she says, I wouldn't go there for anything, all that government overview. I said, Bets, I come out of government. When one is out of money, you go to the next one, and then the next one. It's the model here. So it's worked. And also, I just want to give you this moment. If you haven't come and brought your family to C-Class, it truly is out of this world. We wanted you to know the magic of the undersea, the sense of what bioluminescent means with fish, and be fun, well-designed, magical moment that really makes you feel like coming to the Battery. What are we about? That's it. Thank you so much. Is there any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Hi, I would like to know how much maintenance is required with all of these plantings and who does that?
That's a very good question, and it's what we're thinking about certainly in our sustainability plans. I've got the whole team here some of them, because we're on winter break for many of our gardeners. But we, during high season, we have 20 people in the park, at least, and then some seasonals. And that is everything from the maintenance of litter to maintenance of lawns, but mostly it's our gardening team. And then we welcome and are so fortunate to have over 240 annual volunteers. Of course, they all don't come at once, but over the annual basis. So we have a balance, thank goodness, with our volunteers. But it is what we really take most seriously, and it's what we raise money for now. Because as you see, the capital aspect of the park is pretty well done. We have a new area for family restrooms and park office functions that we're finishing. But that part is done. Now it is how we maintain, how do these gardens survive going forward, especially within the climate challenges ahead.
Okay, related to that, I would like to hear more about the transition from having no horticulturalists in the park system to having however many it was you said. Is
Right.
that through public-private partnership, or was that accomplished?
Do you know, I think it was a combination of both. We certainly were in the forefront bringing Pete to New York, having a horticultural master plan, which had never been thought of as important. So I think we were a self-starter for it. But I think what we saw is we started, as your gardeners, perennials, our biggest labor is divisions. So as we began to share our plants, basically with all the parks near us, but then NYCHA projects, and our gardeners would bring people in to learn how to garden, and we'd go to get their garden started. It began something ourselves, small ways, but then communities wanted, well, listen, they had those gardens there when the parks would go through talking about redoing a park, they'd say, well, we want some gardens too. So the communities embraced them. I think it helped them to start friends groups, and I think it just evolved in that way. And then the ecology, the science of it, how important it was to our pollinators, our insect population. And now we were toxin-free from the beginning, and now the city council has said all parks have to be toxin-free. So, and that was just last year or 2 years ago. So we've been up there getting everyone prepared for where we should be, and I think it was an evolution that the Parks Department and citizens have embraced. But it has been 30 years, you know. I don't want to act like I'm a miracle maker here.
Could you, you've talked a lot, by the way, this is great. Thank you for improving our city. You've talked a little bit about, or a lot about your relationship with the city, but I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about the money side, because we all want everything to be beautiful, but it costs money.
Yeah.
And I work in finance here, so I'm sure everyone finds that question ironic from me.
We're one of the few conservancies that get no money from the city. We're totally funded by private gifts. And so every maintenance, and listen, it's 25 acres, but it's 25 acres with 44 million people passing by annually, so it's not insignificant as far as maintenance. We've tried and tried and tried. We are the official private partner of the City of New York, but there's no money. And so we will start, we have a small endowment. We need to build that up to be independent. It's not Central Park. Remember, it's 25 acres, so it's not the same levels of other major conservancies projects. But it's sad that the city is not able to think of this as their responsibility. If we went away, they'd have to spend something to do something here. But we do have an impact as we go into resilience, and I think it'll give us a little bit more of a push citywide that if the battery fails, your home, your office is going to fail. So I think in all of the challenges of sea level rise, the battery is becoming more and more important to what we call the sponge downtown. That this is the essence of the economic viability of all of the real estate in the lower Manhattan. So maybe it'll inspire someone to pitch in. Thank you so all of you very much for today.